Miami International Airport was a storm of voices, luggage wheel, and flickering gate screen. In the middle of it, my grandmother stood alone, small, steady, and forgotten by the rush. People yelled, some at the agent, some at each other, and some at her. That was the second I realized. If I didn't act, she'd be left behind. I remember the air first, the heavy Miami humidity that clung to the glass walls and the polished floors of Concourse D. Our family had split to hunt for snacks, outlets, seats. Boarding soon, the screen promised. A line of blue letters scrolling above gate D28, as if everything were under control. It never is. Not in places like this, not when the clock is ticking and the speakers crackle with urgency. Grandma stood near the stanchions, hands folded over the handle of her small carry-on, hair pinned into a careful silver bun she'd made herself at dawn. She had refused a wheelchair. "I can walk," she'd said, the same way she'd said it all her life, like a vow. I should have stayed glued to her side, but I'd gone 2 gates down to print a boarding pass and grab water, certain I'd be back before they called our group. I misjudged the tide. It began like a ripple, 2 voices ahead of us, then 5 behind, then a wave of sound slamming the counter. "We've been here for an hour. You lost my seat. My child is crying." And there, sharp and careless, came the one that sliced clean through. "Why is that old woman standing alone? She doesn't even have a seat." Heads turned. The word old hung in the air like a judgment. Grandma kept her eyes on the carpet pattern, a field of dark blues cut by thin gold lines. I cut through the cluster with my water bottles clacking in a plastic bag and touched her elbow. "I'm here," I said. Her fingers squeezed once, a soft code we both understood. "I know. I'm okay." But the board changed then. Delayed shifted to on time. Then the speaker chimed twice, and the agent's voice came, level and fast. "Attention passengers for Flight 287 to New York. We'll be boarding shortly. Due to an aircraft change, this flight is oversold. If you're willing to volunteer your seat, please see us at the counter." A man in a polo shoved his phone across the counter. I checked in first. Don't tell me I'm bumped. A woman with a stroller pivoted her wheel, pinning a toe of my shoe, her apology lost in the swell. Another voice. "Look, that lady doesn't even know what's happening." They meant my grandmother. I turned to the speaker, a woman with a suitcase the size of a closet, and eyes that said exhaustion more than cruelty. Even so, the words had landed. Grandma lifted her chin an inch. "Let's get you seated," I said, spotting 2 chairs by the window. We'd barely reached them when Group 1 was called, the pre-boards and wheelchairs rolling forward in a cluster that looked like grace if you stared hard enough. I guided Grandma toward the rope. The agent, with the navy blazer and the name tag, Marquez, smiled with her lips, not her eyes. "Pre-board?" she asked. "She's with me," I said. "Same reservation. May I see your boarding passes?" I handed mine over. Grandma's, too. Her mouth curled at the edges. She loved the ritual of travel, the formality of paper and permission. Marquez scanned, frowned, scanned again. The beep did not come. She said, gentle but practiced. "It appears we only have 1 confirmed seat." My heart slid like a tray in turbulence. "She checked in with us," I said. "We were together. There must be a mistake." "It's the aircraft change," Marquez explained, fingers sailing over the keyboard. "We lost 2 seats. They'll clear. I just don't know when." Behind us, the volume rose. "This is ridiculous. I have connections. Someone yelled at me first." A different agent held up both palms as if stopping an invisible wave. It crashed anyway. A man pointed at Grandma, the way people point at problems when they want them solved by anyone but themselves. "If she doesn't have a seat, why is she in the way?" Grandma didn't flinch. "We can wait," she whispered to me. "You go," as if I could walk down that jet bridge and fasten a belt around my guilt. The speaker chimed again. Group 2. Rows of people disappeared into the tunnel, swallowed by recycled air and the smell of coffee. "I'll volunteer," someone said from behind the crowd. The agent didn't hear. I did. "I'll volunteer," I said louder, stepping forward, holding up my pass like a flag. Marquez looked up. The woman with the stroller looked up. The one who had said old did too. Her mouth pressed flat. For a moment, the noise thinned, as if the concourse itself took a breath. "Sir," Marquez said carefully, "if you give up your seat, You'll be rebooked on a later flight. There's a chance it won't be tonight. I understand. I turned to Grandma. You take mine. Her eyes were wet, but steady. You shouldn't, she said. You have work tomorrow. I have you, I said. Tomorrow can wait. A gate door clicked open to our left. A mechanic slipped through with a toolbox, the smell of oil briefly overpowering the scent of cinnamon pretzel. The board blinked again. Group 3, Marquez typed, fast enough to sound like rain. I can assign your seat to her, but I need a supervisor just to confirm the transfer because of the cabin distribution, she said. Stay right here. She picked up a phone, dialed, waited. The crowd surged. Someone bumped my shoulder. Someone else apologized in Spanish. 2 teenagers laughed too loud, unbothered by the storm they were walking through. Over the loudspeaker, final call for pre-boarding. Sir? The other agent called, scanning the line. Did you still want to volunteer? Yes, I said, raising my hand. Hey! A new voice snapped, sharp, certain. You can't just switch like that. That's not how it works. The man in the polo had reappeared, arms folded, jaw set. He wasn't talking to the agent. He was talking to me. The phone at Marquez's ear finally clicked. She nodded, eyes lifting to mine. If you're sure, she said, I can make this happen. I was sure, until the printer stuttered, coughed out a slip with a name that wasn't ours. Marquez froze for a fraction, then slid the paper under the keyboard. 1 minute, she murmured, and somewhere down the jet bridge, a chime sounded like a countdown. The supervisor arrived with a stride that said she'd done this dance 1,000 times. Her badge read, El Castillo. Her smile was patient, her eyes already measuring the crowd like a storm front. Marquez explained in shorthand, aircraft change, oversell, name scan, family reservation. Castillo nodded, slid behind the keyboard, and the printer coughed 2 test lines, like a throat clearing before a verdict. Okay, she said, voice steady. We can transfer your seat to her if you're volunteering. But there's a catch, she tapped the screen. Your seat is in the exit row. She can't sit there. I looked at Grandma. Strong, stubborn, but not an exit row candidate. Then move me somewhere else and give her mine. Castillo shook her head. If I move you off the exit row, I have to reseat another passenger into it to keep the cabin balanced. We have no free standard seats. We only have standby and a couple of premium cabin seats no one paid for. If I yank those without authorization, I'll delay the flight. Her fingers flew, a quiet percussion. Let me try to release a middle in the back. Around us, the gate was a living thing. A teenager filmed on his phone. A man argued about his connection in Charlotte. Someone laughed too loud at something not funny. Over it all, the chorus. This is ridiculous. I was here first. Stop yelling at me. She doesn't even have a seat. The last line again, slicing. Grandma breathed through her nose, the way she did when threading a needle. Control the small thing and the big thing will follow. Castillo frowned. There's also a document mismatch flag. Her name is reversed here. First and last switched. It happens when people with 2 last names or hyphenations check in on different devices. She looked at Grandma. May I see your ID again, ma'am? Grandma handed over her card with both hands. Old world formal. Castillo typed. Waited. The system thought about it longer than a human would. All right, she said. Mismatch cleared. From the jet bridge, the muffled slam of an aircraft door opening. Then the 2-tone chime that makes everyone stare at the gate, as if staring could speed time. Marquez announced Group 3. The stanchions trembled as the line coiled. My throat went dry. Castillo's eyebrows rose. Found it. A seat just released in row 29. She glanced at me. If you volunteer, I'll assign 29C to her and rebook you. A pause. But hold on. She scrolled. The pause stretched. What? I asked. There's an audit note on her reservation. She turned the screen a fraction. Not enough for me to read, enough to make me feel the gravity. Seat 21B was released from this ticket about 34 minutes ago. By app. By our app? I repeated. By who? Same family record locator, she said. Another passenger linked to this reservation moved seats. When that happens on an oversold flight, and we swap equipment, the system can automatically reassign the freed seat to the standby pool. She didn't say the rest. Your grandmother didn't lose her seat by fate. Someone in your party let it go. I felt heat climb my neck. We were 5. Me, Grandma, my aunt, my cousin Danny, and her husband, Teo. I scanned the crowd like I could spot guilt from posture alone. Aunt had gone to find a bottle of water. Not cold, room temperature. Danny was posting something. Always posting. Teo had disappeared to ask about upgrades. Upgrades. Let me call them, I said, already dialing. Danny's phone went to voicemail with the cheeriest voice in Miami. Teo picked up on the second ring. I'm right here, he said, and I found him by the Starbucks sign, as casual as a Sunday. He waved, then walked over with a paper cup, and the smile of a man who believes the world should bend around him. They changed the plane, he said, so I checked if we could squeeze into better seats. There was a window, 21B, and then it vanished. Glitchy app. You released 21B, I said. He blinked. Well, it said, free up for a group swap. I thought it would stick inside our reservation. It didn't, Castillo said gently. Once a seat is released into the pool on an oversell, the algorithm assigns it to the highest priority need, probably a family needing to sit together. She pressed another key, and now it's gone. The sound around us dimmed, like someone turned the airport down a notch. Or maybe my blood got louder. Fix it, Teo said to Castillo, the way people say, fix my Tuesday. We're a family. She's the matriarch. Castillo's eyes were kind but firm. I'm fixing what I can, she typed again, then circled something with her cursor. All right, I can still assign 29C to her, but I need a volunteer to finalize. Sir? She looked at me. Are you still willing? Yes, I said. Do it, the printer stuttered. A boarding pass slid out. Grandma's name perfectly spelled. Castillo handed it to her with 2 hands, mirroring Grandma's courtesy. Ma'am, this is your seat. We'll board you now to make sure you're settled. A new voice cut in, nasal with anger. You can't just move us back because you messed up. The man in the polo was at the counter again, jabbing a finger toward the screen. My wife needs an aisle. We had an aisle. His glare skimmed over me, then latched onto Grandma like she was the lever that had moved his day. They're getting special treatment. People turn. That's what crowds do. Turn toward whatever makes the loudest claim. Somewhere behind the man, the woman who had said old earlier stared at the floor. Shame can feel like a heavy coat. I recognized it from the inside. Castillo didn't raise her voice. Sir, no one is taking your aisle. Please step aside or I can't help you. She nodded at Marquez. Pre-board her. We moved toward the scanner. Grandma's hand shook just enough for me to feel it through her skin. It's just a beep, I whispered. Then it's done. She smiled. I will breathe when I hear it. Marquez held the pass over the reader. The red light blinked, waiting. She fed the edge in, silent. Then a flat tone, neither the cheerful ping of yes, nor the angry buzz of no. The screen flashed a line of text in green, then red. Marquez winced. It's trying to seat her in the exit row, she said, bewildered. It's seeing your original seat as still attached to her profile. The swap is half committed. Can you override? I asked. If I do it wrong, it locks the record, Castillo said, already dialing someone higher than both of us. Give me. She didn't finish. On the far side of the rope, an agent in a gray suit lifted his hand, the kind of wave that says, I have authority and not a lot of time. Castillo listened, then nodded once. Okay, we can push it through, but I need confirmation from the passenger who released 21B that he didn't claim a protected seat in exchange. Teo shifted. What's a protected seat? A seat held for mobility or crew rest, Castillo said. Did you try to grab row 1? Or the bulkhead? He opened his mouth, closed it. The gray suit agent walked over, the jet bridge door yawning behind him like a choice. If he did, I'll have to clear it first, he said. And if I can't, we'll have to deny boarding to the last confirmed passenger on the list. Who is that? I asked. He glanced at his tablet. Same record locator, he said. Family of 5. The printer whirred again, as if it too had an opinion. I looked at Teo. He looked at the floor. Undo whatever you did, I said. He didn't meet my eyes. My app is frozen. Then use mine, I said, handing him my phone with the app open to our reservation. Somewhere behind us, the speaker chimed, and the words "Final Call" glowed on the board, bright as a dare. The loudspeaker cracked like static before the final boarding call hit. Attention passengers on Flight 287 to New York. This is your final boarding announcement. Please proceed immediately to Gate D28. The words sliced through the concourse. Everyone moved. Even those who weren't on our flight turned their heads. There's something primal in a final call. It flips a switch between patience and panic. Castillo's phone was still pressed to her ear. Marquez hovered at the keyboard. The man in the polo stood nearby, muttering to himself. And Teo was frozen with my phone in his hand, staring at the app like it had personally betrayed him. "Did you fix it?" I asked. He shook his head. "It's asking for security confirmation. It says, the seat I tried to claim is restricted." "Which seat?" Castillo snapped. Suddenly, all business. Teo swallowed. "Row 1, bulkhead." It said, "Upgrade available." I tapped, yes. The gray suit agent pinched the bridge of his nose. "Bulkhead is crew rest on this aircraft." When you tapped yes, you triggered a protected seat hold. The system's waiting for confirmation to release it back. Until that happens, her boarding pass is stuck between states. "You broke it," I whispered. Teo tried to defend himself. "It's not like I meant to. The app doesn't explain any of this. I thought—" "I don't care what you thought," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried. A couple of people in line turned their heads. "You made her lose her seat because you wanted legroom?" Grandma's hand tightened around her boarding pass. She didn't speak, but her silence was heavier than anything I could have said. "Okay," Castillo said, lifting a hand. "Everyone breathe. We have 30 seconds before the system locks final boarding. Marquez, clear the swap. Gray, override the crew rest flag. Sir," she looked at Teo, "approve the security prompt on the app. Now." Teo fumbled, swiped, cursed under his breath. It froze again. "Then give it to me," I said, snatching the phone. My fingers flew through the prompts like muscle memory. Tap, hold, approve, override. The security screen blinked once, then cleared. "Done," I said. Marquez hit enter. The scanner beeped, clear and sharp, like a bell after a storm. Grandma's name flashed on the screen. "Seat 29C, confirmed." "She's good to board," Marquez announced. For half a heartbeat, the chaos muted. Grandma looked at me, and in her eyes was something between gratitude and worry. "You're sure?" she whispered. "I'm sure," I said. The agent guided her through the gate. The crowd shifted. Some people clapped, half-hearted, but real. Others just sighed in relief. The man in the polo muttered something about special treatment again, but no one answered him this time. As Grandma disappeared down the jet bridge, Castillo turned to me. "You're officially the last volunteer. We'll rebook you on the next flight out. Could be a few hours." I nodded. "That's fine." She studied me for a moment, then smiled. Not the polite smile of an airline employee, but the quiet kind that says, "I saw what you did, and it mattered." "Not everyone would give up their seat like that," she said. "I didn't give it up," I replied. "I gave it back to the person who needed it most." Somewhere down the jet bridge, the door closed with a soft hydraulic hiss. The flight was boarding without me. Behind me, Teo hovered, looking small for once. "I didn't mean for this to happen," he muttered. I looked at him, exhausted. Intent doesn't undo impact. The screen flipped to boarding complete. The gate went still, like a stage after the curtain falls, and I stood there, in the middle of Miami International, realizing how one tap, one tiny, selfish tap, had nearly cost her a seat, and me something I couldn't replace. The concourse was suddenly quiet, that strange, hollow silence airports have right after a flight leaves. The rolling suitcases fade, the chatter drains away, and all that's left are fluorescent lights and the faint hum of air vents. The gate agents began packing up their scanners and boarding signs. For everyone else, the day moved on. For me, it paused. I walked toward the window, watching Grandma's plane push back from the gate. The tug truck rolled away, the lights blinked, and the jet bridge detached with a slow, metallic groan. I pressed my hand to the glass, like I could hold the moment there. Row 29C. She was in that cabin now, buckled in, finally, safe. And I wasn't. Teo shuffled next to me, cup in hand, guilt settling on him like Miami's humidity. "You're mad," he said, as if it were a question. I didn't answer. He sighed. Look, I didn't think it would matter. They always fix these things. I just wanted a better seat. I travel all the time. This wasn't about you, I said, low and steady. It was never about you. For once he didn't have a comeback. I sat down in one of those molded plastic chairs near the empty gate, the kind that dig into your back if you sit too long. The boarding pass exchange paperwork sat folded in my pocket, stamped with the volunteer code. I had officially traded my exit row seat for an uncertain future flight. A younger version of me might have been annoyed. This version just felt still. My phone buzzed. A message from Danny. Where are you? Flight's moving already. Teo messed it up, right? Grandma's sitting next to some nice lady. She looks calm. I typed back, yeah, I stayed. She's good. Danny replied with 3 heart emojis and a voice note of airplane engines spooling up. Typical. She never lingered on problems. She posted them, then moved on. Across the terminal, the rebooking line was growing, a snake of tired travelers clutching boarding passes and impatience. I joined it, silently. 2 businessmen argued about upgrades. A college student sobbed quietly into her hoodie. A couple joked about bonus Miami time. Everyone had their story. The woman in front of me turned around suddenly. It was the same woman who'd said, "Why is that old woman standing alone?" earlier. Her eyes met mine, and for a second, she froze. Recognition, like a spark. "I shouldn't have said that," she murmured. I shrugged, not out of forgiveness, but fatigue. "She's fine now. She reminded me of my mom," she said, voice cracking just a little. I think that's why I said it. I was mad at the airline, not her. I didn't expect that. "Airports bring out the worst in people," I said. "And sometimes," she added, "the best." We both looked toward the runway. The plane carrying Grandma lifted into the humid Miami night, lights cutting through the darkness like a promise. When my turn came at the counter, the rebooking agent smiled politely, fingers already flying. "Volunteer seat, right? I can get you on the 10:45 red-eye to New York. Middle seat, but it'll get you there." "I'll take it," I said. She printed the pass, slid it across. "Thank you for helping us out," she added, like I'd done the airline a favor, not my own grandmother. As I walked away, I passed Teo again. He was slumped against a pillar, scrolling his phone in silence. For once, no hashtags, no stories, just a man who'd been confronted with the weight of his choices. "Hey," he said quietly as I passed. I stopped. "She's lucky to have you," he said. I didn't reply, but for the first time that night, his words didn't sound rehearsed. I found an empty row of seats by a closed cafe, stretched out, and let exhaustion catch up to me. The airport PA system droned distant names I didn't know. I watched luggage carts snake across the tarmac like tiny fireflies, and slowly, the noise of everything faded. Grandma was safe. That was enough. By the time my new flight was called, Miami International had transformed. The bustling evening rush had given way to the quiet hum of the red-eye crowd. A different breed of traveler. People moved slower, spoke softer. Some curled up on seats, shoes off, coats as blankets. Others stared at screens with glazed, sleepless eyes. The neon reflections on the polished floor looked almost poetic. I held my new boarding pass like a worn-out ticket to a second chance. Middle seat, 10:45 p.m. On arrival just before sunrise. Not glamorous, not ideal, but strangely fitting. My phone buzzed again. A new message. "Grandma, estoy bien? La señora a mi lado me ofreció su manta. Boa viaje para você también." She'd switched languages mid-sentence, the way only she could. I smiled. She was warm, safe, cared for. That was all I needed. When they called our group, I walked down the jet bridge alone this time. No rush, no yelling, no chaos, just the distant roar of engines and the low hum of air conditioners along the walls. As I entered the cabin, the flight attendants greeted us with that late-night half-smile, polite but tired. I found my seat between a college kid clutching a guitar case and a woman in a blazer already asleep with her neck pillow in place. The cabin lights dimmed, and the engines began their slow, rising growl. As the plane taxied, I leaned back and let my mind replay the night. The yelling, the scanning delays, Teo's selfish tap, Castillo's calm under pressure, Grandma's steady hand. I realized then that airports have a way of revealing people. Not who they pretend to be on Instagram, but who they are when systems break, when patience runs out, when seats run short. For Teo, it had revealed carelessness. For the woman in line, guilt and reflection. For me, it revealed choice. I didn't feel like a hero, just someone who did what was right when the system didn't. As the plane lifted through the Miami night, city lights glittered below like scattered gold. I whispered a quiet goodnight to Grandma, somewhere over the Atlantic ahead of me. Hours later, New York greeted us with pale dawn light spilling over the skyline. The tarmac was wet, reflecting the rising sun like a mirror. Passengers stretched, phones lit up, seatbelts clicked. As we disembarked, I felt a hand tap my shoulder. It was the woman from the earlier line, the one who'd regretted her comment. She'd been on the same flight, apparently. "Hey," she said softly, "I never got to say this properly. What you did back there? It mattered. People noticed." I gave a tired smile. "I didn't do it for people." "I know," she said. "That's why it mattered." She walked off into the crowd, disappearing among the suitcases and fluorescent lights. I found Grandma at the arrivals area, sitting calmly on a bench near baggage claim, hands folded over her purse like she'd been waiting for me her whole life. When she saw me, she stood slowly, her smile blooming like sunrise. "You made it," she said. "I told you I would," I replied. She reached up, cupping my face briefly in her warm, steady hands. "You gave me your seat," she whispered, proud. I shrugged. It was never mine to keep. For a moment, the chaos of JFK faded around us. The rolling carts, the taxi horns, the announcements in 3 languages. It was just us. 2 generations standing in the echo of a long night that could have gone differently, but didn't. And as the first true rays of morning hit the terminal glass, I realized something simple and unforgettable. Sometimes, love is loud, like people yelling at a gate, but sometimes it's quiet, like a seat given up without hesitation. That night had started with chaos, but it ended with clarity, and that's a flight I'll never forget.